Come see us on tour in Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohost, New York, Providence, Rhode Island, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Toledo, Ohio, and Toronto, Ontario. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. I learned about what a leaky vaccine was from Dr. Robert Malone during COVID, and he told me that the COVID vaccine was a leaky vaccine, meaning that you could get vaccinated and still get the virus and still transmit it. That's what a leaky vaccine means. And he told me that if you try to over-vaccinate people, that would create more virulent strains of COVID, which everybody was told the exact opposite. They were told that the people who were unvaccinated were the ones responsible for the mutation of the virus becoming more virulent. And according to science, that's not true. So the Vigilant Fox tweeted this out. The USDA wants to vaccinate millions of chickens to stop the bird flu. They claim it's the ultimate solution, but not everyone's convinced. RFK Jr., for one, is sounding the alarm. He's worried about Big Pharma's leaky vaccine. So here he is.
The White House, all of my agencies have advised against vaccination of birds. Because if you vaccinate with a leaky vaccine, in other words, a vaccine that does not provide sterilizing immunity, that does not absolutely protect against the disease, you turn those flocks into mutation factories. They're teaching the organism how to mutate. And it destabilizes it, and it's much more likely to jump to animals if you do that.
Right.
So all of my agency heads from NIH, CDC, and FDA had all said we should not be vaccinating. It's dangerous for human beings to vaccinate the birds.
Would you get on a leaky luxury cruise? I wouldn't get on a leaky Would you get on a leaky airliner? I wouldn't. Would you use a leaky condom? But a leaky vaccine seems to be perfect. I mean, I guess the CDC has realized they can't convince humans to take the shot anymore, and it's much easier to convince chickens. So I guess that's what happens, or humans with a bird brain. But anyway, it goes. Has anything I said here? Would you like to correct anything I've said so far, Dr. Kory?
Jimmy, no. I think Bobby said it great. I think you explained it well. I mean, it's just dangerous. It's not that it would be ineffective. It would be harmful to do that in the guise of using up all these vaccines to vaccinate birds. It would create a disaster. And let me just tell you one other thing: hopefully this will blow your mind, but maybe it won't. But there is one of the simplest solutions to avian flu in those flocks. And unfortunately, it's a therapy that's been heavily suppressed. And it's called sodium chloride, which is a water purification compound, which forms something called chlorine dioxide. It's in 900 to 1,000 municipal water systems. The levels that they use it for water purification could simply be raised. It's very safe to ingest chlorine dioxide. In fact, it has many therapeutic effects as an antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, and the toxicity levels are far above what you can find for therapeutics. There would be no bird flu if the chickens drinking water would simply be raised to a level which would eradicate the virus when they drink the water. Period.
And I think I'm safe to say this because now this is an official source, the Secretary of the Health and Human Services. So I'm only allowed to, on YouTube, I'm only allowed to quote government sources with authority, and he certainly has authority. So there's a little bit more to this story. Here it is. There's a headline from National Geographic: leaky vaccines enhance the spread of deadlier chicken viruses. It's right there from the National Geographic. So that's not just me saying it. That's not Bobby Kennedy saying it. That's not the Vigilant Fox. That's the National Geographic. There's the headline right there. Leaky vaccines enhance the spread of deadlier chicken viruses. And he goes on to say, this isn't just some wild guess. History has already shown what happens when viruses mutate thanks to leaky vaccines. It can drive viral evolution, not only allowing pathogens to persist, but also making them more infectious and harder to control. And here's Chris Cuomo on News Nation with a guest that's going to explain some more.
The other thing I want to say, if you don't mind, Chris, is we're talking about the high price of eggs, and I want to show your viewers this chart. So you'll see here that this is 40 years of egg prices, right? 40 years. The blue is Obama, the first Obama term. The red, you'll see that prices of eggs go up. The red, the prices go back down. That's under President Trump the last time. And then the blue is when they skyrocketed. So certainly avian flu has a lot to do with it, but it's also the high cost of inputs, the unbelievable amount of regulation, the shutting down of our export markets. We have a $49 billion deficit in our ag products since Joe Biden took office. Do you know how much of a deficit we had under President Trump when we left? Zero. So there's a lot more that goes into this than just the avian flu, and we're working really hard to address it.
So they've decided to cull the chickens, and while Big Pharma and the USDA continue to push leaky vaccines as a solution, look at what's happening in the egg industry. Egg prices have skyrocketed. Sickening 166 million chickens have been culled in the United States alone. 166 million chickens. The USDA is reporting that egg prices may jump another 41% in 2025, making what used to be a staple in the American diet sadly out of reach for many. And just one more, but here's the kicker. The virus isn't even transmitted through eggs or food. So why are we murdering so many chickens and growing fearful of eggs? I'm sure Bill Gates has nothing to do with it in his fake food. Instead of using a leaky vaccine and slaughtering millions of chickens, Kennedy suggests a more level-headed approach. Isolate infected flocks, let them develop natural immunity, and use therapeutics to treat. Well, here he is. Let's listen to him say it.
The question is, should you cull those flocks? Most of our scientists are against the culling operation. They think that we should be testing therapeutics on those flocks. They should isolate them. You should let the disease go through them and identify the birds that survive, which are the birds that probably have a genetic inclination for immunity. And those should be the birds that we breed like the wild population.
Right.
Right now, the White House strategy is to repopulate those farms that have been depopulated. We've killed 166 million chickens. Wow. That's why we have an egg crisis.
So that's what's happening. And most of our scientists are against culling operation. They think that we should be testing therapeutics. So, but meanwhile, the government is dumping $1 billion into the bird flu measures, $500 million for biosecurity, and $400 million for farmers with culled flocks, and $100 million for research into vaccines and therapeutics. And despite all of this funding, there's no relief for Americans in sight. Egg prices are sky high and are at risk to go even higher. Why isn't anybody talking about this disaster? The real concern is where this all leads. If leaky vaccines fuel viral evolution, what happens when bird flu jumps to humans? Do they push another rushed vaccine? Will we see more mandates? This isn't just about chickens, even though what's being done to them is downright horrible. It's about repeated failed approach to disease control that always leads to the same disastrous outcomes. Big pharma profits, higher food prices, more unnecessary vaccinations, and a heck of a lot of fear. What do you say to that, Dr. Kory?
Well, I totally agree with that. And I like that you brought up, and that even Bobby brought up, therapeutics. And that's kind of what I was referring to. You know, you had that statement that scientists are against culling the birds. I happen to be researching, doing a lot of work with chlorine dioxide, which is it's an amazing therapeutic, which gets completely propagandized by the FDA and in the press as bleach, a toxin, and a poison. This is not true. At the doses that it's used in water purification and in therapeutics, it's actually extremely safe. Although it has chlorine in the name, it is not a chlorinating agent. There's no chlorine ion that is ever elaborated as it breaks down or as it forms. And I know scientists, deeply studied for decades, who literally are screaming silently on the sidelines, saying what I just told you before, is that all you need to do is raise the level in the parts per million in the drinking water of all those flocks. Boom, it goes away. There's such a ridiculously simple solution to this instead of paying millions of dollars for eggs. It's some things in the world are so absurd, or maybe most things in the world are so absurd, at least the ones that I come to talk to you about. But this one is unconscionable. that there's simple solution. There's there's not many, but there are scientists who know how to get rid of this pandemic in the birds before it jumps to humans or any of that nonsense. And yet we have to deal with propaganda and dismissal of credible therapeutics.
I mean, this isn't hard to grasp if I can grasp this, right? But there's still people who can't grasp this, and those are the people who are busy trying to keep their masks dry while they're taking a shower. I think the next thing they're going to do is to come up with a water flu so you can't drink water, and they're going to say water's bad for you. Now you can only drink seed oil. So, and people who consider themselves news junkies repeat the junk that they hear in the news, which is all the propaganda that we're here to debunk right now. And here's just one last slide for you. Vigilante Fox says, let me see it. Can I see it? Okay. No, I still can't see it. Okay. The leaky vaccines are dangerous. Hard-working farmers are being forced to kill healthy birds, and now the country is facing a major egg crisis. What's the government to do about it? Throwing more cash at the problem, doubling down on vaccines, and dodging any real accountability. How long before history repeats itself? Remember this? 15 days to slow the spread. Remember that? So, do you think enough people have woken up to fight against something like this?
I don't know if the chickens have, but certainly if they turned on us and had us doing mandating vaccines, I got to tell you, they'd be up against hopefully a rebellion or a revolution, because we're not having that. I think it worked the first time. It's not working the second time. So do you think that it's easy? So it's obviously easier to them to mandate vaccinating chickens, right, than it is to mandate vaccinating humans. And the irony is you don't get the virus from the eggs. Isn't that wild? No.
Okay.
Ay.
All right. Well, Dr. Kory, I really appreciate you taking time for our little show here. Thanks for treating me. Thanks for treating me successfully for my vaccine injury. I appreciate that. I feel a lot better. And continued success in your practice and your writing.
Thanks, Jimmy. Great to see you, man.
Okay, buddy. Come see us on tour in Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohost, New York, Providence, Rhode Island, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Toledo, Ohio, and Toronto, Ontario. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.